Okay. Sandy and I have been practicing our smiles because I've learned that like it's important on the YouTube video to get a thumbnail, of the episode. So I thought like I could do like the screaming emoji, and Sandy would do the hair raising.
That's a really compelling thumbnail. So if you happen to see that one,
we're mature.
Yeah. Click
hello and welcome to the Pen Podcast, Psychic Eye Mystery Podcast, episode number 11. We are cruising. I'm your host, Victoria Laurie, with my fabulous sister, Sandy. Happy Valentine's Day, or pre-Valentine's Day, I should say.
Did you get my package?
I didn't. I did. I looked. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure. I'm not worried. I'm sending out my.
I know you're not worried. I'm tracking it, and it
every
says
single year. Every single year, my wonderfully thoughtful sister sends me a Valentine's gift, and every single year I get it, and I feel super guilty because I don't even send her a fucking card. And you would think that after like 11 years of this, that I would. Yeah. No, I suck in the sister department. Sandy,
not necessarily.
Like, you are awesome and thoughtful, and I so appreciate it. And I know I'm gonna love it because it's always something that's like comforting. Like you should see the robe she got me for Christmas. I live in that thing. I live in it. It's
all right.
Like
so
the most
this year's
like hug thing.
This Valentine's Day gift is something that you can share with Smelly Man.
Sandy, he's nuts. Come on.
What?
Great smelling man, not smelly man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize he was great smelling man. I thought he was smelly man.
Oh my God, I can't show him this episode now.
Like smelly cat.
I'll be like, we did episode 10 and then 12. I don't know what happened to 11. Just don't listen to it.
Smelly man.
Smelly man. No, he is. He's so God. He smells so good.
All right. So not cute. To take us off track, but that was the rationale behind it.
You brought him up. Okay, I can share it with him. Oh, that'll be nice. That'll be nice with a bottle of wine, because that's our usual.
No.
Okay. No? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not wine. Mm-hmm.
Is it bubble bath?
God, no. It already smells. There's no reason to do a bubble bath.
Oh yeah, no, we don't want to wash that off. We don't want to wash the
all right.
So
off. Next week you can share with the audience what it is that you have received.
Yes, I will. Okay, well, remind me, because you know me. I'll be like, blah, blah, blah. And you'll be like, hello, did you get your gift? And I'll be like, yes, my wonderfully thoughtful sister again thought of me so sweetly. Happy Valentine's
For this
Day.
Week's theme of Valentine's Day. Yes. Okay. So before we jump into Valentine's Day thematics and fun, do you want to do a quick revisit of the last week's podcast about the Bricka family?
Yeah.
Because
we had a great follow-up conversation, and I like realized something. I had like a little epiphany. So
what was your epiphany?
We're gonna okay. So just to revisit the case, the Bricka family was murdered in 1961, right? 61. I'm pretty sure it was like
65.
65. Okay, yes, right. Because Debbie was 5, right?
4.
Math.
Yet another strong skill.
Math.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So the whole family was murdered in 1965. And it's a fascinating case. And if you want my impressions, I had a very, very strong feeling about what happened and what took place. And what was most interesting was I really felt that I was looking at the scene of the murderer as he entered the house through Jerry's eyes. Jerry was the father. So it was my theory. If you haven't listened to it yet, skip this part. Skip ahead. hit
mute.
Forward. Mute. That'll just mute you. So forward. Anyway, so the murderer I felt was someone that he worked with, and Jerry had discovered something about him that would have cost him his job. So this gentleman followed Jerry home, showed up at the back door, and I had a very clear image of the man behind the screen door, standing behind the screen door, And what I didn't realize at the time in looking at who was standing at the screen door was like there was can we talk about this? Can I come in? And Jerry was saying yes. And the man raised his hand with a gun. And what I didn't realize at the time was that when I was looking at him, he raised his left hand and not his right hand. And I realized that one of the details of the story was that they suspected the guy was left-handed.
Yes.
And that hadn't been something that I had picked up when I was reading the synopsis. So when I was recalling that image, it just struck me as like, that isn't something that my mind would have gone right hand. So that when I really felt I was looking through Jerry's eyes and the left hand came up with the gun, I was like, oh, okay, all right. I think I really was looking through his eyes at what went on. So yeah, so that was really interesting.
Yes, an interesting confirmation for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're both dressed in pink, pretty in pink for Valentine's Day.
Yes, ma'am. And pearls.
And so, right.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yes.
Our listening audience is like, we don't care. Get on with it. Get on.
I'm trying. People, I'm trying. So the book this week that you wanted to feature is from your Coached to Death series.
Yeah, the Life Coach Mysteries, which is my newest mysteries, basically. So this stars Kat and Gilly. Kat being of the Psychic Eye Mystery series, and Gilly being of the Sandy shaking her head because Kat is based very loosely on her. Inspired, I should say inspired. And then Gilly Gillespie, who comes from the MJ Holiday series, the Ghost Hunter Mystery series. So these two really are almost like the Keystone Cops of mystery solving. They end up solving stuff like by total accident, always headed in the wrong direction.
And like me and you know?
Seriously, right? So we decided to do this book because like I've only done one other book with like a Valentine's Day scene. It was really kind of a bummer. And we've already featured the book anyway. That was Better Red Than Dead, the second book in the Psychic Eye series. So because this book is all about the love scenes. So first of all, I really wanted Kat, who is a 40-plus-year-old woman, divorced, free to date who she wants to, if she wanted to get busy with two gentlemen, she could. And the amount of like hate mail.
Well, let me just add to this that when you loosely base the freaking character on me, and then you have love scenes about the character you've loosely based on me.
There was no, first of all, I'm not writing love scenes. I'm doing the lead up to and the after of the love scenes.
Whatever.
I'm not picturing anything. Like
highly disturbing. Let me just say highly disturbing.
Yeah. Well, just skip over those parts.
I do. I turn pages really fast when you're talking about such things.
But it's funny. The lead up is funny. The lead up to actually the day after. The lead up to, the day after is funny. You have to admit when Gilly comes, there's a scene that's really funny. Anyway, so Kat gets her groove on, and then there's a really sweet scene between Gilly and his new love interest, an alpaca.
That is a hilarious scene. Yeah.
Or rather, I should say the alpaca and his new love interest, Gilly.
That would be a more appropriate way to describe that entire hilarious scenario. Yes.
The rabbit hole I went down researching alpacas. So like Sandy knows I'm writing this book, and I'm like, I don't really know anything about alpacas, but I really had this scene in mind. And so I started researching it, and like 8 hours later, we're talking, and I'm like, we have to own an alpaca farm. Like that just has to happen. And then like we're making plans to like have something in Vermont where we're going to have alpacas.
Okay, I want chickens. He wants a whole herd of
alpacas. Alpacas are they're so sweet. They're such cool. They're really, really cool. Really, you can go down a busy rabbit hole with alpacas. They're kind of awesome. So anyway, To Coach a Killer on shelves wherever books are sold. This is definitely my favorite in the Kat Gilly series so far. However, Jim has given me my agent Jim has given me an absolutely brilliant idea for what will, and you're hearing it here first, what will end up being the last in the Calculi series, at least under this publisher. If I continue with it, it'd have to be like probably my own. But yeah, he's given me just a spectacular idea for what will likely be the last in the series. Don't worry, I'm going to tie up all loose ends. It's going to be okay. Cat is not gone. Gilly's not gone. They'll make appearances, I promise. So yeah. Anyway, okay, all right. Anecdotes, right? We're on anecdotes. Okay, so I was in a panic yesterday afternoon because I was talking to Sandy, and I'm like, I don't have any like really good sort of Valentine's Day sort of anecdotes. I don't know what I'm going to bring up, and so we had kind of a whole other direction that we were going to do, you know, the power of the other side, you know, can see that I'm in a panic, like I don't have anything good and juicy to tell the fans tomorrow on the podcast. And they provided 2 clients who gave me just such sweet, wonderful, lovely anecdotes. So the first is I was reading for a woman, and her father, when they get excited, it's so cool because like they really do hit me like a freight train, right? It's like right in the face. And it's I have such a hard time even trying to direct my thought in a different direction other than to acknowledge them. Like it's like I can't. It's like someone coming up and stepping in front of you, and you're still trying to have a conversation with someone around them, right? So anyway, so he came running in, and he was super, super devoted to his wife, and he knew his wife was still here. And he kept saying, as proof of who he was, he kept saying, talk about the birthday, talk about the anniversary, talk about the birthday, talk about the anniversary, talk about the birthday, talk about the anniversary. So I'm like, was there like a birthday and an anniversary like back to back? Well, it turns out his wife's birthday was the day before, and their anniversary is this week. So then he shows me, like, he's such a kind of vibrant character. So then he shows me he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and a lei and sunglasses. And I said, you know, we were talking about traveling, and I said, are you by any chance headed to Hawaii? And she smiles and she said, yeah, next week. We're taking Mom, his wife, to Hawaii. And that's for what would have been their anniversary. And you know, he's telling me I'm tagging along, I'm going. And she's like, that would have been their anniversary, and also where they honeymooned. So Hawaii had this like really special importance, and I thought that was just like so sweet. So and yes, they do tag along when you go to like really cool places. The dead tag along, like they're there. So if you
feel a cold chill,
that's probably, you know, if you feel a cold chill in the hotel, that's probably the hotel. Get out. But if you feel warm and fuzzy and you think of like dad or mom or whomever, they have hitched a ride. Oh, and you know how he told me that he was going? So he's wearing this Hawaiian shirt, sunglasses, and a lei, and he holds up his thumb like hitchhiking. That's how he told me that he was going. Yeah, I think that was so sweet. And then and then this one was really good too. So like not the next client after her, but the one after that, her mom came forward, and such a sweet lady, identified herself really well. And she kept saying, you know, she was so happy to be reunited with her husband. And I said, oh, your father's passed too. And she's like, no, he's still here. And like this like really confused me, because this woman was so overjoyed to be reunited with her husband. And the image of her husband, and I could see why, because the image of her husband was like James Garner, right? Really gorgeous man, black hair, you know, chiseled features. And so I said, gosh, he's like showing me this like James Garner kind of character. And my client's jaw dropped, and she goes, oh my God, my mom was briefly married before her first husband was killed in a car accident. And he was tall and beautiful and looked like James Garner. So yeah.
Wow.
So sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
Mom's off. I know. Mom's off with her first husband. Yeah. So but Dad is remarried. So
Dad's a placeholder.
Yeah, I know. Don't get a complex, kiddo, but you know,
you're a placeholder.
Exactly. My God. Yeah, so those are my 2 like Valentine's Day love continues, you know,
Even with placeholders, it's a good
Even
thing.
with placeholders, yes, even with placeholders, yeah. And that's been one of the things that's really been kind of interesting is who reunites and who separates. And they have, most of them have given me a lot of indication that they still keep up their social lives. In fact, they're far more social than like we are because they don't really have jobs, you know. They get smitten, you know, being reunited with their loved one. It's like they kind of fall in love all over again, and they pass that feeling on, you know, like you're in high school and you've got a crush.
Oh,
You know, like how I feel about Great Smelling Men. So kind of crush. He's so cute, you guys. Someday I'll have him on. Someday.
again, I'm a
Andy,
placeholder.
you're fired.
Yeah.
Yes, Sandy, we're going to experience some layoffs here.
Yeah.
We're downsizing in favor of someone who smells really good. So anyway, okay. We have, this case, I'm glad we're kind of doing a little bit of levity, and we have a really great story to end with. That is a personal story. It doesn't have anything to do with murder, mayhem, or spirits on the other side. But
Yet.
but it's hilarious, and it's a family story. So we thought we'd end with that, try to perk your mood up, because I want to brace you guys. This is a tough story. This is the first case that I've actually cried my eyes out over. So poor Sandy got that phone call. We talked back and forth about whether or not we actually wanted to include it in an actual podcast. And I want to make it very, very clear that the parents are still holding out hope that their daughter will come back to them. And they believe very, very firmly that she is still alive. And I do not want to dispel that hope at all. So, you know, I don't have control over who sends anything to anybody, but like, just respect them. Okay. I'm not trying to insert myself into their lives or dash their hopes or give them any moment, not even an iota of pause or pain. But I got very clear impressions. And they were not fun. And I'm not going to go into detail on it because I want to spare all of you, but this was a really, really tough case. So Sandy, you did a great job writing this up too, again, as always. So
And when you fire me,
in the
have
family.
fun. Yeah. When you fire me, you have a good time, right? Your own mysteries.
I will be correcting, you know,
Yeah.
if Great Smelling Men takes it up, Van Spilling takes it over, I will be correcting YOUR and YOU''RE constantly. So
That sounds like fun.
what is it with men? They just don't like, it's always the guys, right? It's like your, right? Like that's yours, YOUR. YOU''RE. You are, like you fucking are. So anyway.
Okay. All
I
right.
digress. Yeah. So take it away.
This case I came across as a result of a list that the FBI has published of 43 unsolved cases of people under the age of 21 that the agency is looking for leads. And it turns out our podcast number 9 on Kyron Horman was on the list as well. So not that I intend to devote all of our time to this particular list, but this is how I came across this particular case. And the reason that we're featuring it for Valentine's Day is that because her name is Asha Degree. She disappeared on Valentine's Day. And this coming Monday's Valentine's Day marks the 22nd anniversary of her disappearance. And tragically, Valentine's Day is also the wedding anniversary of her parents, Icola and Harold. And this coming Monday's Valentine's Day will mark their 34th wedding anniversary. So here's the story. For unknown reasons, in the early morning hours of February 14th, 2000, 9-year-old Asha Degree packed her book bag and left the comfort of her family home to walk in the pouring rain and heavy wind along nearby North Carolina Highway 18. Between 3:30 and 4:15 a.m., 2 separate passing motorists witnessed the 4'6", 60-pound fourth grader walking as she navigated the dark roadway. When one of the drivers, who was concerned about the little girl, turned around and began to approach her, Asha inexplicably ran away from the roadside into a wooded area, and she has not been seen since. Asha's parents, Harold and Asha Degree, married on Valentine's Day in 1988. Their first child, a son, O'Brien, was born in 1989, and Asha was born 11 months later on August 5th, 1990. The Degrees family home was located on Oakrest Drive in a residential subdivision in a rural area north of Shelby on the western edge of Charlotte. Harold and Icola both had full-time jobs nearby and felt secure that their children could get home from school safely to focus on homework until they could join their children at the end of the day. Life centered around church, school, and their extended family. Harold's mom lived across the street, and Harold and Icola were cautious about negative outside influences, so at the time, they did not have a computer or internet access in the house. As a shy, sensible, and cautious child who was wary of strangers and terrified of dogs, Asha was content with her healthy home life routine and the limits their parents had set for her. The second weekend in February 2000 was a long weekend, with Cleveland County schools closed on Friday, February 11th. While her parents were at work, Asha and O'Brien spent most of the day at their Aunt Keisha's house, located in the same neighborhood as their home, and later attended their youth basketball practices at nearby Falston Elementary School. The siblings were both excited about playing with their respective teams the next day at the Burns Middle School. On Saturday, February 12th, with her family cheering her on in the stands, Asha took to the basketball court as a star point guard. And unfortunately, Asha fouled out during the last 3 minutes of the game, and the team suffered its first loss by 1 point to their opponents. This upset Asha, and her teammates all ended up in tears. Heartbroken at first because she felt she had let her team down by fouling out, Asha quickly bounced back and joined her family in the stands to cheer her brother on during the game. Later that evening, Asha attended a sleepover that included several cousins, and there were no signs of lingering distress about the team's loss earlier that afternoon. If she had felt guilty over how the basketball game had turned out, it was not obvious to those that were close to her. On Sunday, February 13th, the Degrees attended church and then spent time visiting at a relative's house before returning home. Around 9 p.m. that night, the power went out in the neighborhood after a nearby car accident, so both Asha and O'Brien went to bed in their room that they shared. Later that evening, Harold returned home from work, and then around 11:30, in anticipation of his wedding anniversary, he headed back out to buy some candy for his wife. He was home again by midnight and was relieved when the power came back on around 12:30 a.m., at which time Harold went and checked in on his children and saw both Asha and O'Brien asleep in their beds. He peeked in on them once again shortly before he went to bed at 2:30 a.m., and everything, it seemed, was back to normal. Shortly thereafter, O'Brien, then age 10, recalls hearing Asha's bed squeak. Assuming that Asha was shifting positions in her sleep or maybe got up to use the bathroom, O'Brien fell back to sleep. At 5:45 a.m. on the morning of her 12th wedding anniversary, Icola got up a little earlier than normal. The power outage had precluded the kids from washing up, so Icola started to draw a bath and then opened the children's bedroom door to wake them up before their 6:30 a.m. alarm so they could bathe and get ready for school. As expected, O'Brien was asleep in his bed, but Asha was not. Icola searched the house and the family cars, and when she couldn't find Asha, she woke Harold up in a panic. He suggested that Asha might have gone over to his mother's house across the street, and after making a call, Icola learned that from her sister-in-law that Asha was not there. Now frantic, Icola called her mother, who told her to call the police. By 6:40 a.m., officers from the Shelby Police Department had arrived on the scene and found no signs of forced entry. Icola went through the neighborhood calling Asha's name, rousing her neighbors and friends about her missing daughter. By 7 a.m., friends, family, and neighbors canceled their plans for the day to assist police in their search, and the Degrees pastor and other area clergymen came to their home for support. After doing a quick inventory of her clothing, Asha was believed to have been wearing a white shirt or nightgown as a shirt, white jeans, and white Nikes when she had left her house earlier that morning. Despite the cold, rainy weather, none of her coats or winter clothes were missing from her closet, but her black book bag and purse with the Tweety Bird design on it were gone from her room. Investigators quickly ruled out that Asha had been kidnapped, but also did not classify her as a runaway due to her young age. Approximately 60 volunteers were searching for Asha by the end of the day, and up to 100 volunteers had joined the search by the following day. In addition to these volunteers, helicopters circled the area searching for Asha, and canine units were dispatched. While canine units could not pick up a single scent trail, likely due to the overnight storm, investigators received their first leads the afternoon of the 15th. Local news coverage prompted two different motorists traveling along North Carolina Highway 18 between 3:30 and 4:15 a.m. on Monday the 14th to report their early morning sightings of Asha. Jeff Rupe contacted the police at noon on the 15th to say that he saw Asha walking south along Highway 18, just north of the junction with Highway 180 at 3:30 a.m. on the 14th. According to Rupe, it was raining heavily at the time, and when he caught sight of Asha, she appeared to have a book bag, was wearing a white dress and white sneakers, and had her hair in pigtails and was walking quickly and intently as if she had a definite destination in mind, not wandering aimlessly down the dark road. Thinking that it was strange for a young girl to be out by herself at that hour, in a raging storm no less, Rupe found a place to turn his truck around and then headed back to where he'd seen the young girl. When he drove up alongside Asha and asked if she needed help, he stated that Asha ran off into the nearby woods and vanished into the darkness. The second truck driver, Roy Blayton, a former Cleveland County Sheriff's deputy, contacted police around 5 p.m. on the 15th after learning about Asha from his wife. Blanton reported seeing Asha at 4:15 a.m. near the intersection of highways 18 and 180. Roy, who was trucking with his son, did not realize he had spotted a child and assumed it was a woman who was possibly running away from a domestic issue. Concerned about her being hit by a car by passing motorists, Roy issued a communication on his CB radio to warn other truckers in the area to be on the lookout. County Sheriff Dan Crawford said, "We're pretty sure it was her because the descriptions they each gave are consistent with what we know she was wearing." He added that both witnesses also saw Asha at the same place heading in the same direction. According to Detective Tim Adams of the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, that was the last time anyone had a confirmed sighting of Asha. Based upon their two separate accounts, police determined Asha was about 1.3 miles away from her home, and the route she was walking, while unsafe for pedestrians, was familiar because it was a route her school bus traveled to school. With two credible leads, police began checking a 5-mile radius around the intersection of 18 and 180, a remote and densely wooded area. Checkpoints were set up with searchers, including an air support, canine units, and foot patrols combing the area, but nothing relating to Asha was found. Authorities also thoroughly searched Harold and Ecola's home and took an inventory of Asha's things. Missing were her black overalls with a Tweety bird design, a black and white striped long sleeve shirt, a white nylon shirt, a red vest with a black trim, and her favorite pair of jeans. Detective Tim Adams of the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office later reported during his 2015 reinvestigation of the case, apparently she packed her bag prior to leaving, but the contents, from what we can tell, looked something like a child would pack rather than her parents preparing her for an overnight stay. Asha's parents were quickly cleared of any wrongdoing after submitting to police interviews and a polygraph test. Likewise, on February 15th, Jeff Rupe was questioned and polygraphed, and after being cleared, he took authorities to the area of Highway 18 where he had last spotted Asha. On February 17th, beginning at the point where Jeff Rupe had last seen Asha, volunteers fanned out and came across the property of Debbie and Raleigh Turner, which was 600 feet from where Asha was last seen and about a mile from the Degrees' home. At the back to the Turner's property was an old shed, which was part of the Turner's upholstery business. Inside the shed, police retrieved Asha's Mickey Mouse hairbow, a 1996 Olympics commemorative pencil, a green marker, and a few candy wrappers belonging to candy that had been given out on February 13th at the basketball game. Also found was a wallet-sized photo of a young African-American girl, but no one in Asha's family or community recognized the child in the photo. While investigators know that Asha packed her belongings in her book bag, they were unsure why only a hairbow and some school supplies were left behind. No other traces of Asha were found near the site, and despite an extensive ground search of the area, nothing else turned up. Adding to the mystery was the fact that the Turner shed was uphill from Highway 18 and would have been difficult for Asha to reach, as she would have had to have crossed a 3-foot gully to get to the shelter. After 9,000 man-hours of searching the area where Asha had last been seen, on February 20th, police called off their search. Shortly thereafter, the FBI and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation got involved in the case. A month after Asha's disappearance, the Degree family appeared on the Montel Williams show to call attention to the case, and America's Most Wanted and the Oprah Winfrey Show also devoted segments to Asha's story. Then on August 3rd, 2001, a year and a half after her disappearance, Asha's book bags and other items were unearthed during a construction project off of Highway 18 near Morgantown, which was about 26 miles north of Shelby. Asha's bag was double wrapped in a black trash bag. And interestingly, the two truck drivers who reported seeing Asha on Route 18 said that she was walking south, not north towards Morgantown, raising suspicions of foul play. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office confirmed that 99% of the contents belonged to Asha, but noted that the discovery of the backpack didn't produce any new leads. Aisha's book bag was then sent to Quantico, Virginia, where the FBI conducted an in-depth analysis of all of the bag and its contents. Inexplicably, it wasn't until 2018 that the FBI confirmed that the bag included 2 items that did not belong to Aisha: a New Kids on the Block t-shirt and a copy of Dr. Seuss's Magellan's Pool, which oddly had been checked out of Aisha's elementary school library, but there was no way to verify if she checked out the book herself. In 2015, the FBI joined state and county authorities to reopen the investigation, which resulted in a disclosure by the FBI in May of 2016 that they were looking for a 1970s dark green Lincoln Continental Mark IV, or possibly a Ford Thunderbird from the same era with rust around the wheel wells. Cleveland County Sheriff Alan Norman stated that the car would have had to have been occupied by 2 people. No further details were provided about the car or why authorities were looking for the vehicle. Some news articles have reported that Aisha was witnessed getting into the car, but this fact hasn't been confirmed by authorities. To this day, the Degrees continue to work at keeping Aisha's memory and the case alive in the public eye. In 2008, they established a scholarship in her name for a deserving local student and started an annual walk to raise awareness and money to fund the search for their daughter. A missing persons billboard for Aisha stands along Highway 18 near where she was last seen, and the FBI is offering a $25,000 reward for information leading to Aisha's whereabouts, and the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office is offering another $20,000. For Aisha's parents, the hope is that those responsible haven't done irreparable damage and have the courage to come forward. Aisha's disappearance has baffled police since she went missing on Valentine's Day 2000. And while investigators believe that Aisha had planned and prepared for her departure over several days prior to her disappearance, the motivation behind her departure remains unknown. Further, investigators suspect that along the way to her destination, Aisha either got off track or was abducted. And sadly, there are still no definitive answers about Aisha's fate. In 2020, around the anniversary of her daughter's disappearance, during an interview, Icola said, "After 20 years, I still believe my daughter is alive. I do not believe she is dead, and I know someone knows something. I'm not crazy enough to think that a 9-year-old can disappear into the thin air without somebody knowing something." Icola also told North Carolina's WB-TV, this is worse than death, because at least with death, you have closure. You can go to a gravesite or you can have an urn in the home, but for us, we can't mourn and we can't give up. The only thing we've got is hope. My sources for this story are Wikipedia, allthingsinteresting.com, The Disappearance of Asha Degree, How a 9-Year-Old North Carolina Girl Vanished Forever by Marco Margadarov, June 17, 2021. Unspeakablecrimes.com, Everything We Know About the Mysterious Disappearance of Asha Degree by Patrick Thornton, updated on October 22nd, 2021. Carolina Crime Files podcast by Kelly Navy. Winston-Salem Journal, Marcus Mellon. And then the Winston-Salem Journal, which we'll talk about in a second. I apologize.
Yeah.
So
This was
what do you,
this was the hardest case I've looked at. Like really, really tough. So my modus operandi now is to just dive into an automatic writing and see if anybody steps forward connected to Aisha, maybe herself or someone who on the other side connected to her who might know what happened. And I immediately had the sense of like a grandmother figure stepping forward. And she didn't necessarily show me, the scene of what had happened, but it was sort of like, there's this like telepathic kind of impression that you have so that you get a clear understanding. And I felt immediately that Aisha, the reason that she was out in the cold and the rain and walking was that she was sleepwalking. That actually, when you and I were first talking about the case, and you brought it up to me, and you said, she's out in the cold, this 8-year-old walking at 2:30 in the morning in the rain. And I don't know if you remember this, Sands, but Sandy and I used to live in England. And when we first went to England, we settled into London for a couple of months before our house was ready. So jet lag, schedules are all crazy and everything. Sandy and I are sharing a bedroom, and I don't remember what time you came to bed, but I was fast asleep, and we had these really, really heavy drapes across the window. And I just remember the light going on, And I got out of bed and I started to get dressed, and you were like, what are you doing? You remember it, right? And I'm like, I'm going to school. And you were
Now
like,
I remember making horrible fun of you. Yes, I
yeah,
remember.
you did. You were so mean to me. So, this is why it's the writing of Cat is so justified. Sandy was
It is not.
so justified. Someday I'm going to tell this story about how we
Someday
both
you're
got
not
new
going to tell
clothes.
anymore. No, you are not. Let's just focus on the case. Please.
Anyway,
Focus on
so
the
that
case.
was, and I was getting dressed, and you were making fun of me, and I couldn't figure out why you were making fun of me, because it was in my mind I was going to school. I really wasn't awake. And so, I'm getting dressed and I'm shoving stuff in the backpack, and you turned out the light, and I was so pissed at you because I couldn't see, right, to get ready for school. And like, it took a while for me to kind of, wait, like it didn't click. So that was the very first impression that I had. And I felt Asha was sleepwalking, that she was determined to go to school. And Sandy and I both know a family that we kind of grew up with. Their two sons were sleepwalkers, and they tell hilarious stories of traveling and being in the hotel, and the boys just getting up and walking all over the hotel, being locked out of their room in their underwear. And in their underwear. And just heavy, deeply sleepwalkers. And that's really what I felt was going on with Asha. I don't know if she has any history of sleepwalking at all, but that's what I felt. And that's why the rain didn't bother her and the cold didn't bother her, because she was really deep into sleep. Now, when the gentleman pulled up, I forget his name, Sans, what was the man who tried to help her? When he pulled up, and
Jeff Ruby.
When he was trying to help her, that's when she came awake.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was afraid of him. I think that she was completely disoriented and didn't know where she was, didn't know why she was in front of a man in a car. It's dark. Her parents aren't around. What the freak? So she panics and she goes off into the woods. And I feel like the other guy, and this I've read also on one of the blogs that I read, there's a theory out there that the gentleman who was the former sheriff, who put out, hey, truckers, careful, there's a woman walking along the road, that alerted two white men, who went looking for her. And one of the clues that the grandmother gave me, because I said, tell me, give me proof, something that I can look at on a map that tells me you are who you say you are, and that you're connected to Asha, and you know what happened. And she said Asha was taken near her family's home at the intersection of Old Mill Pond Road. And when I wrote pond, it felt off. And then, so I pulled up Google, and there's an intersection of 181 and 18. Okay, these are the two highways. Right next to that is Oak Mills Fun Park. So that's Old Mill, Oak Mills, right? And it intersects Post Road. So you may think that's a leap. To me, it was like eureka. Okay, boom. That's this woman, because of how like I hear but don't hear, so I was like, okay, so this is actually what happened. And according to the grandmother, she was taken. Unspeakable things were done to her. She was kept alive for at least a few days. I don't think she was given water. I don't think she was given food. And I think she finally just succumbed.
Did you get any impressions? Yeah. Did you get any impressions about why her backpack was found in the shed of the property? Not the one that got buried, but there were some of her belongings found
in there. I think that's where they first took her. That's where they first took her.
Okay.
And I think that they were looking through her backpack and just throwing out anything that didn't concern them, just rifling through it, trying to find out who she was. But they had never intended to return her to her family. her grandmother assures me that she is on the other side. She's okay. But this was a tough case. This was really tough.
Well, when you and I were talking about it, you said that the green,
Oh yeah, I felt like, the green Cadillac or whatever it was. I didn't feel it was
Yeah.
green. I felt it was black, and I felt it was a pickup truck. I don't
oh,
know.
really? The
Yeah.
Lincoln Continental was what the FBI
Is
was.
this, do they, it felt like it had an open back. So you know how some of those like older car had like an open back, right? So it's like
a trunk, an open trunk.
Yeah. That's what it kind of felt like. And I felt it was black. I didn't feel it was green. I felt it was black. And I felt like the grandmother basically said that Asia was spotted by the passenger. That's how I knew that there were two men.
Yeah.
And it took the both of them to corral
her. Yeah.
And grab her.
And the backpack that was then unearthed by the highway crew 26 miles north of where she was, that was just that, like, is her body near, or where they did dispose of her body, near that area?
That I don't know. The only clue that I have to where her remains were buried was the grandmother gave me a distinct impression that her remains were buried near a river, next to like on a riverbank. And that there was a view of a barn, like she said like a barn house. So there was a view of a barn. And I said, is it possible that Aisha's remains will be discovered? And she said, it's not likely now. So I feel like because wherever they buried her was next to water, I feel like that water, the river had risen and flooded the area at times. And that I don't know that Aisha's remains are still anywhere near where they had buried her. Now, there is a man named Marcus Mellon who confessed, basically not confessed to the crime, but he said he's a convicted pedophile.
Pedophile.
Pedophile. He was convicted of sex crimes against children in 2014, and he claimed in 2020 he sent word to a news station, contact the FBI, know what happened to Aisha. And he said that she was dead and he knew where she was buried. That was prime COVID. And so COVID was breaking out in the prison. They couldn't interview him until that situation had kind of rectified itself. And when they interviewed him at length, he failed to lead them to her remains. And before I even read that, actually before Sandy and I were like digging in, right? We were talking about it, and I said, I feel like he had firsthand knowledge. I don't know that he was the person in the car, but there's something, he's linked. And I said, he knows kind of the general area, but there's no way he's going to lead him to the spot, because it was 20 years ago. It's there was no structures around, right, at the time. It's this river. The banks have changed. Everything looks different. There's no way he was going to lead them to where she was. And sure enough, when we dug deeper, he hadn't. But I do feel like there were, these guys that kind of, hunt in packs, right? And so I feel like he had actual knowledge. I really do. I feel like he has actual knowledge of what happened to her. So I hope he rots in jail. I hope he rots for the rest of his life, honestly. I don't know. I don't know if these guys will ever be caught. I don't know if they have been caught. There was no really impression of them. It was just what had happened to her. That's why it was so hard. Because sometimes you can hop into, sort of the killer's mindset, or you get like an overview, but like this just felt like I got sucked in to what they did to her. So,
well, it's also a 9-year-old's experience, right? Not their experience. It's a 9-year-old's experience, which is even more tragic. I think for me, what's still so astonishing is, and I guess because I've never actually walked in my sleep, I'm stunned that she made it 1.3 miles from her house in the rain with the wind blowing, underdressed for the weather, and not aware of where she was, or that she it wasn't until Jeff Rupi came upon her that she
Right.
kind of
She
woke
woke up.
up.
Yeah.
And I can totally appreciate her panicking and running away.
Right.
And I can appreciate that it probably was difficult for him to pull over and not startle her further. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
he went on his way.
Yeah.
And it also makes tremendous sense to me that Dan Crawford, the county sheriff's deputy, former county sheriff's deputy, makes sense to me that he would put out a broadcast. It's what he
sure.
would have done, you know, as an officer of the law.
For sure.
And I'm not surprised at all that his radio was being monitored and, you know,
Right.
became very opportunistic for.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't feel these guys were truck drivers. I don't feel they were truckers. I feel that
Yeah.
they were just fucking bad men, you know, just bad men. And they didn't see her as a human being. And it was opportunistic. And they were, you know, fucking horrible. So those are my impressions. I don't, you know, again, guys, I'm not saying I'm right. And again, I don't want to cause these parents a second of doubt if they hope their daughter is alive. The grandmother did, however, tell me that Asha spends a lot of time at her parents' house. And you and I were talking about that might be why her mother feels that she's alive, because her spirit is so close.
Yeah.
So, you know, I certainly don't want to interject my, you know, truth and be like, yeah, no, this is exactly what happened. But it was pretty detailed, and it was that old Mill Pond Road thing, you know, like it was like, okay, all right, you know, I hadn't even looked at the area and for her to go this and this, this intersection. And it was so close to what the literal translation of what she had said. I was like, okay, that's proof to me. Yeah, so, you know, like, you know what you know, but you don't know how you know it sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, poor Aisha. So, you know, say a prayer for her. If you believe she's alive, say a prayer for her. If you believe that, you know, I'm correct and that she crossed right around that time, say a prayer for her too. So from what I understand from her grandmother, it could be her great grandmother, but it was a very grandmotherly kind of figure. She's fine. She's whole. She's okay. I think that there was a period of time when she did cross over where she wasn't, and she was looked after. And, you know, something that kind of occurred to me, as we've talked about, these ancestral trees are sacred, right? It's the lineage and your ancestors, and there's so much pride over your specific tree, over your specific lineage. And I was thinking about, you know, this forest of trees of African-American descendants, and how much pain is in those trunks, you know, in those branches. And it sort of occurred to me, like, you know, this family, their lineage, right, that they've had experiences of assisting loved ones over that have been traumatized and, you know, murdered and violated and all of that. And it doesn't make it easier. It just,
It's familiar.
yeah, you know. So she was in very good hands, I believe, when she crossed over. She was in very, very good hands. So
Truly a crime of opportunity, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, wrong place, wrong time.
I think that they were out looking for something, though. You know, I don't know that they were looking for a 9-year-old girl for sure, but I think that they were out looking for trouble. And when they heard there's a woman alone, that's where they went.
Yep.
And then, you know, well, they caught her, you know. Fuckers.
Okay.
Motherfuckers.
So thank you for your impressions. I'm sorry it was so difficult. I don't mean to be blasé about it at all.
No,
I just,
I so appreciate it. You know, thank you for answering the phone today when I was a mess. You know, we talked a lot about should we or shouldn't we do this? I mean, the last thing we want to do is bring you guys down, but we also, you know, Sandy kept giving me the out. She's so wonderful that way. But I just felt this grandmother came forward and told me the story, and that, you know, on the chance that I'm right, I felt that I was obligated to tell you guys about it. She made the effort. I could communicate that.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that's all. It's been
Okay.
a tough day.
It does. All right. So why don't we wrap up
Okay.
and just
No, we're talking about the story, the Valentine's Day story. So yeah.
go ahead.
On this crying note, yeah, we're gonna leave you with some levity. Okay, so Sandy and I actually have a brother, and neither one of us have spoken to him in a very long time. He gets his personality from his mother. You know, you can draw your own conclusion from that. Anyway, during the time that we were speaking, he married a beautiful, beautiful woman. Sandy and I still have a lot of love for her. She's a wonderful human being. And for Valentine's Day, he wanted to get her this china hutch, this very large china hutch. So his wife is traveling out of town, and my brother has to go to work. So he asks my father, "Will you come and greet the guys who are delivering it and show them where to put it?" And my father at the time was driving just a piece of shit car, and as an incentive, my brother said, "Hey, you can drive the Jeep. I'm going to take my wife's car." He goes off to work, right? My father shows up. So just to give you the layout, okay, the driveway is kind of down a hill, right, and around the corner. So the garage is right underneath basically the living room is where it is. And as you walk in, so it's a little bit of a walkout. As you walk in, there's this whole huge finished basement. And so Jerry's task was only to raise the garage door and allow these guys to come in. Okay. So he goes off and runs an errand with a Jeep, and he comes back and he puts up the garage door, and he's just automatically kind of starts backing the Jeep into the garage. And then he remembers, oh wait, they've got to get in, they've got to get the china hutch in. So he pulls the car out, and he's going to close the door because it was, I think, like it was unbelievably cold that day. It was like 9 degrees, and the wind chill was like -18 or something. So it's the tundra, right? So he's closing the door because the wind is just coming in to that very large downstairs area, which my brother and his wife used a lot. So he's closing the door, and for some reason, the sensor didn't pick up that the hitch was still inside the garage. So the door comes down between the end of the hitch and the Jeep, right? And then it gets wedged there. So he keeps hitting the button, trying to make the door go up, and the door won't go up. My father, I think at this age, was like, I don't know, late 70s, probably late 70s, right?
He could have been in his 30s and the same damn thing would have happened.
Exactly. Oh my God, it's so true. It really is. It's sad, but it's true. So anyway, so my father, the super genius, and he was actually a really smart man in like numbers and figures and stuff, but like common sense, no, right? So he's hitting the button, and it's really wedged in there. So he's looking at it, and he decides, well, if I just pull the car forward a little bit, I'll be able to undo this situation. I'll be able to wiggle the door out, right? Well, he's got the reflexes, right, of a 79-year-old man. So he puts the car in drive, puts his foot on the gas, and the Jeep comes forward, and the whole garage door gets pulled
He's now
off.
towing the garage door, right?
Exactly.
Unintentionally towing the garage
this is
door.
a huge 2-car garage door, okay? And he just pulls it out into the driveway. So he gets out, and he looks at the wreckage, okay? And he just goes home. He doesn't call my brother. He doesn't tell anybody. The furniture guys arrive. There's no one to take possession of the china hutch. They can't get in anyway because the garage door is literally across the entire driveway. And so
Special delivery. Special
Seriously.
delivery.
Oh my God. So so my brother arrives home and it's basically, what the fuck, right? Like he doesn't know what's going on, what's happened. There's no China hutch. The garage door is in the middle of the driveway. The Jeep is like damaged. Okay, the back of the Jeep is damaged. There's no sign of my father or his car. So my father calls. My brother calls my father, and he's like, "What? What happened?" And my dad goes, "What do you mean?"
I don't know.
I don't know. What do you mean?
I don't know.
As if someone else did this.
Right.
Right.
Let's have another martini and talk about it.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. He was probably deep in by then. Yeah. So like he never apologized, never took,
It didn't happen.
right.
He just,
Yeah. Just, oh, well. Oh, well. And the bummer was, I think it took like 2 weeks to get someone out to put the garage door up. So this is February, in Michigan, right? Wind blowing and everything. So, they're heating their house, the best that they can. It's freezing because the wind is still coming in from downstairs. And I don't even know what happened to the China hutch. I don't know. I'm sure it got delivered at some point, but I don't know that his wife was any too pleased by that Valentine's Day gift of,
Happy Valentine's Day.
No, exactly. So that's our personal Valentine's Day story.
And you guys thought it was going to be a juicy romantic one. Nope.
Nope.
Comedy of errors.
Exactly. Not in our family. Not in our family. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Well, the bird is squeaking. I'm sorry. If you're listening to that, she's, on her perch up there. She's having a good time, for those of you that can see. Anyway, Sandy, thank you again for everything.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Also, for helping me kind of collect myself for the podcast. I so appreciate you and I love you so much.
You're okay.
Yeah. Next week, we've got a really good one. We're not going to give anything away. We're going to dive in. So please tune in next week, same time, same station. If you want to know more about me, and only me, because Sandy doesn't want you to know anything about her, please visit victorialaurie.com.
You understand why, right? I've been written about in books and I have an insane brother. So here we go.
Yeah. And I'm sorry about the bird, guys. So go to victorialaurie.com. Yeah. If you want to make an appointment, or if you want to know more about the books or more about me, blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. I have to go feed the menagerie because they're being ridiculous. So you guys have a fantastic week. Happy Valentine's Day. Sandy, I love you to pieces, and I'll see you later. Okay. Bye.